Welcome into Paper Trail. I'm Jen Lada. This is episode 2 of the Milwaukee Brewers 2008 season, where we recap the biggest moments using the newspapers that I had saved in my office. So the Cubs and the Brewers were going back and forth all season long. Brewers had a lot of optimism because they had such a stacked lineup. And of course, they were hoping that Ben Sheets could carry the team for most of the season. I'm looking at this article, or this paper rather, from July 27th, 2008. So we have already jumped to after the All-Star break. The Cubs led the division at the end of April. 16-10 was their record, but the Brewers were right there on their heels, 15-11. You go to May, there was about a 5-game difference between the Cubs and the Brewers. In June, they were still chasing by about 5 games, but in July, things got a little bit tighter. Right before this article came out, the Brewers were down 5 games, but they were able to make it up in 9 contests. It says here, incredibly, the Brewers have made up 5 games on the Cubs in a span of only 9 games since the All-Star break. That's what happens when you go 8-1 and the leaders finally falter. I remember, again, this being a very heated battle between these two teams back and forth. So this is really relevant because the Brewers had just acquired CC Sabathia. In fact, Tom Haudricourt said, in light of the Milwaukee Brewers trading away 5 minor leaguers and another to be named later to acquire left-hander CC Sabathia and infielder Ray Durham. Does anybody even remember that they got Ray Durham in that trade? I don't think so. Many have wondered what is left of the farm system. I can tell you people weren't really worried about that. The excitement for having CC Sabathia in a Brewers uniform was through the roof. Here's the crazy thing about this time of year. Again, July 27th, 2008. A lot of people were turning their attention to the Green Bay Packers. This happens in the middle of the Brewers season. No matter how well they're doing, a certain portion of the fan base will start paying more attention to training camp. Of course, we will talk about all of the drama that went on with the Packers that season as well. But Ned Yost made sure that his guys in the Brewers clubhouse understood the significance of what they had done to close that gap with the Chicago Cubs. They swept the Cardinals. I think 3 of those games were won with late home runs, and one of them was a CC Sabathia shutout. CC Sabathia making his presence known immediately when he joined the Milwaukee Brewers. And there's another little nugget here talking about the Brewers. Guess who they were facing this week? That's right, the Cubs. Again, I tell you, the series between these two teams were absolutely electric. Can a late July series be any more hyped than the Cubs' 4-game visit to Miller Park this week? Never mind that there are still 2 months more to play after the series. In a weird bit of scheduling, the Brewers then head off for their second trip to Atlanta this season. What's crazy is every week in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, they would do power rankings essentially of the entire National League. Number 1, because the Cubs still had the lead at this point, Chicago Cubs, feasting on home cooking. Number 2, the Milwaukee Brewers, no longer wimps on the road. And again, this article on the front is talking about how the Brewers had made up the deficit. So at this print, the Brewers had a 60-44 record, and the Cubs had a 60-44 record, just setting up an incredible second half of the season in 2008 for the Milwaukee Brewers, where they would continue battling with the Chicago Cubs week in and week out in the standing. All right, coming up on our next episode of Paper Trail Milwaukee Brewers 2008. Remember how I told you that the Brewers were flying high? They were dead even with the Cubs in the standings. Well, they were going to play the Cubs in a pivotal 4-game series. It did not go well. Tune in next time.